Listen up. This is our time now. Second half is our time.
We are the Titans. We are the Titans. Mighty, mighty Titans.
Welcome back to Disney Marvels for a week of August 18th, 2020. This is episode 97. Disney Marvels, the show about Disney, Marvel, Lucasfilm, Muppets, Pixar, 20th Century, the parks, and much, much more. If it has to do with Disney, it's fair game. I'm your host, Matthew Graken, and we'll be back after these messages from our friends and sponsors.
Hey guys, it's Kyler Pope from the Disney Theme Park Show the Second. I just wanted to tell you about my great podcast, the Disney Theme Park Show the Second, where I talk to wonderful guests such as Matthew Graken about all things Disney. I am available on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, and Radio Public as of now, and I hope you guys have a magical day.
And now, on with the show. Between being stuck at home at night and trying to find something entertaining and the beauty that is Disney Plus, I've been catching up on a lot of movies and things that I missed out on years ago, and people have told me have been finds and something, oh, you should check this out, and how come you haven't watched this? One such movie, and I couldn't help myself. I finally got around to watching it. I was waiting for my wife to watch it, and I decided, you know what? I'm going to watch it anyway, because she would do that to me. And so I watched it anyway. It was Remember the Titans. And I was... Well, I'll get to how I felt about that movie. And I'll get to it shortly. But I need to bring in someone that knows movies, let's say, better than me. Is our resident movie man himself, Isaac. How are you doing, Isaac?
I'm doing well. Thank you for joining me back on the podcast again, man. I want to say I know a lot of movies though, but I watch a good chunk, man.
I think it's safe to say probably more than me.
Yeah, but you know what? Here's the thing about a person who's watching a brand new film. I do envy you. That you got a chance to see Remember the Titans, because it's a fantastic film. But what I really do envy you is people who get the chance to experience that film for the first time, because you get to see it from a brand new, fresh pair of eyes. That, as great as I've watched it so many times, you're just never going to get that same feeling the first time you watch that film. No,
there's always going to be the first time, like watching Endgame for the first time, or Infinity War for the first time. Just sitting in the theater, especially that last half hour, and the entire theater goes silent. And that's on. I miss theaters. And speaking of theaters, you heard about Mulan?
Yes. Yeah. So apparently, from what we're hearing, that Mulan will be going on Disney Plus around Labor Day weekend. From what it's being told.
Yeah, September 4th, I believe it is.
Yes, as a way to, and what I'm hearing from that is the strategy to that is that they will introduce Mulan as I think a $30 almost like special attraction release. To, I guess, current subscribers, and as well as new ones that along would get Disney Plus. So I think that's the game plan that they want to enter in with Mulan, from what I heard, to present this film. And, out of curiosity, first I want to throw this back to you. Do you think, in terms of Disney, do you think that is the best move to first of all put it on Disney Plus with a $30 price tag? Do you think that's going to be enough to entice new people as well as people that have Plus to be able to join on that. And I'll start off that with you.
It is an interesting angle on it. And I think at this point, we have this movie. We want, we need to do something with it. And what do we do? How long do we keep waiting?
Yeah.
The interesting caveat to the whole thing is that it's not exclusive to Disney Plus, depending on where you live.
Right.
A lot of areas are getting it to Disney Plus, but there are some areas that will be getting it to theaters, places where theaters are open. Now, I don't know if that's locally in the United States or that's more internationally. Say I'm just grabbing country names here. Like, say, if theaters are open in, I don't know, Japan, that it'll release it in theaters there, and it will not be on the mirrored streaming service to that, or the Philippines or something like that. So I don't know what the situation is going to be fully there. I know it's getting, it's going into multiple places. Here in the United States, in New Jersey, where we are, where theaters are not open, I'm glad I'm finally getting something new to watch.
Yes.
And for $30, if it went to like a pay-per-view, it wouldn't have been that much cheaper. Or if you just went straight to Blu-ray, same thing. I forget how much it was, but when Onward was in the theaters and abruptly was taken out of theaters because all the theaters closed when all this whole stuff started, we did get on the pay-per-view and watched it and really enjoyed it. We got on through iTunes, I think it was, iTunes or Prime or whatever the service. So if you were to buy something like this on iTunes, you're paying probably about this. You're paying what, $20 to $30 anyway. So for the digital copy. So basically, that's what you're doing here. Now they haven't said, or I haven't seen them say anywhere about, is this a one-time watch? Is it a 30-day watch? Is it one in you have it for your library for the rest of the time? I haven't heard that. So that is one question out there. And the price point, I'm not surprised, especially if you're able to keep it. I think the price point is right. Also, looking at the ESPN Plus side of things, they do something similar over there. So you have your UFC fights. If you have a ESPN Plus subscription, you have access to those fights, but you still have to do a pay-per-view. You still have to buy them. You don't automatically have viewing capability of it. There's certain events that you do have to buy into. So this is just kind of a similar thing. And, if you have Prime, there's certain movies you can watch, certain movies you have to buy. Netflix, I don't think has that. Apple TV, I'm not sure. Apple, what was it? Apple Plus, whatever their name is. It's the same type of thing. But yeah, so I think in some ways they're kind of testing the waters here.
Oh, yeah.
Other movie studios have done similar things and sent their movies straight to pay-per-view on demand. This is Disney just trying to control their IP a little more and keep everything a little closer to the vest, since they have that capability. Where like Universal, not so much. I mean, they just came out with Peacock, but that's more, and I don't know how much movie-wise they got going on there. So yeah, you got Disney trying to, they're testing the waters here. Okay, if we do it in this type of formula where we appease some of the theater owners and, where theaters are open and available, we'll give it to them to show. And otherwise, people who don't have the ability of going to theaters we're not going to single you out. You still have this option. And for me, a family of 5, $30 is cheaper than going to the movies. and that's before popcorn, snacks, drinks, anything like that.
Mhm.
If you're just a single person and you're buying it, that's it may be a little more, but like I said, versus buying a Blu-ray copy or a digital, just a straight digital copy of it, price point wise, it's around the same. So you're buying a digital copy of a movie that you haven't seen yet versus a movie that you've already seen and now buying into a digital copy. You know what? In that way, you're actually saving money. Um, it's a weird scenario, and is this kind of seeing, okay, let's see how this movie does, because they could have done this to a number of different movies that they have currently in the holding pattern, and they picked this one, which they were expecting internationally particularly to be rather large. Particularly with the Chinese market. This thing was heavily focused on there versus the American domestic market. So it just kind of, I think, again, this is maybe testing the waters of, okay, we do not know what the future of movie theaters are. Because even, say, 6 months from now, theaters are allowed to open back up. How many theaters are still around? Because, they haven't been open now for months, and to be able to, can they afford to open back up? Is the company still afloat enough to be able to open up some, if not all, of their theaters?
Yeah. I know, and you do bring up some very interesting facts, and I'm actually doing even a little bit more research, and you just bringing up the foreign market. And speaking of China, China has just announced that they will be releasing Mulan in China in theaters, hopefully around, I believe, the same time as Disney will be releasing Mulan on their Disney Plus service. Now, the reason was trying to be able to do that because I think China, they're only going to be releasing movies that have movies that are under or around the 2 hour time limit, and that's going to be big. So I mean, that's going to help out Mulan in that sense to recoup some of its box office owners. But yeah, at the same level, it's a difficult, like you said, it's a difficult situation to be in right now due to what the pandemic has caused. Because at the end of the day, these studios, even Disney, everybody borrows money for the banks, and when all the money, and all these movies are made with borrowed money, and the longer that these films are sitting on the shelves, the interest is piling up on these films. Absolutely. So they have to do something quick to get these movies out. However, that being said, if the movie theaters were open, Mulan would have stood a better chance of really recuperating that money back than going the Disney Plus route. Unfortunately, I mean, because at the end of the day, I mean, streaming just doesn't bring you the same money as, like you said, as a family. It's a great value to you as a $30 person, but at the end of the day, that's not a great value to studios that make these big budget, block budget films. They make their monies in the theaters where they can charge your family $20 a pop with all the concession stands, and that's how they make their money to be able to produce these big budget films moving forward. So, and my next issue too is the fact that Disney kind of threw this kind of late, all kind of out of nowhere, if that makes any sense, because because again, this is September 4th. It's literally like
not even a month away.
2 weeks, literally 2 weeks away. And I don't know if there's any kind of marketing time to be able to explain to your current viewers as well as new viewers that this is the possible take that you want to get to. I think it just, I don't know. Now, I don't know if Disney already had some kind of marketing planning in place to be able to sit down and promote it. But I think it's going to be very confusing to people that have the streaming service, because, like, to me, one, why would I spend a $30 on a special event? Because this is basically what you're selling to me for a film when I know that maybe down the road, maybe 3 or 4 months down the road, it's going to be available on Disney Plus anyway for within my subscription fee. What you're basically telling me is I'm paying this $30, I guess, one-time fee to see this film on top of whatever prescription fee that I'm paying. So I don't know how Disney's going to be able to sit down, to explain that to either the people they have now or the people that they want to be able to bring in.
Right, that this could potentially just be an early access fee, see it ahead of time versus, you want to wait, you have to wait 4 months, 6 months, whatever the case may be to see it for free. You want to see it now, you have to ante up ahead of time.
Which,
But think though, you do video games like myself. In the gaming world, they do that. You already have that going on, that you have, you want to pre-order, you pre-order the standard one for $40, $60, $40, $50, whatever it is. You download it on the day that comes out. You pay the $70, $80 for the deluxe version. You could play 3 days earlier.
I think the only reason why it's not really a great thing to use it, because I think it's expected in the video game world. That's kind of sadly something expected in video games, because
now it is.
It's presented. No, it's been around for now it is, but this is something brand new. This is not something you expect in film, because again, like when you go watch a film, normally you're set to pay whatever this price is, whatever it is in film, or either through rental, and that's that. You're not really paying that. The consumer doesn't really understand that. The consumer says that, like, I've already paid the subscription fee. Why do I need now to pay $30 for just this film on top of everything else? You know? And again, I think Disney has to explain that to the consumer what's happening to be able to justify a $30 fee release. Because I feel like they have to try to get a good chunk of either new people or people they already have now to buy into this to be able to make the money that they were expect to make during if movie theaters were to be open.
Yeah, well, all these things are evolving and changing. Part of the reason, like you said, this is they're kind of come at this late in the game. They're not giving people much heads up notice. I wonder, is this something that they just came up recently with? Because they announced this, I think it was during the quarterly earnings, and I don't think that they had, as they were probably crunching the numbers, going, okay, great, we need to find more additional revenue streams. Our stores were closed. We had the online store, but our physical stores were closed. The parks were closed, which that really killed them. We couldn't put any movies into theaters. So, as far as a revenue stream coming in, they were very limited. It was pretty much the streaming service that was doing everything at that point.
The streaming service is basically the only thing they could really give to the shareholders. Is the only thing making profit out of this whole time. Yeah.
Right. So how do we now evolve that to the next iteration of the streaming service? I think of most people have, pay for their TV. Very few people just use rabbit ears and get the free broadcast TV now. So you get you're subscribing to a TV service of, cable, satellite, Fios, whatever. But you still can pay to watch movies earlier, movies that will eventually come out on probably a channel that you get for free. But these are, if you want the early access to see it, you have your pay-per-view that you can watch movies 3 days, 10 days before it comes out on Blu-ray or disc or digital. So it's an evolution of something that, it is not a norm. It's not something that people understand right now. But who's to say in 5 years this won't be the new way. You know, theaters may be almost a thing of the past. I mean, think of drive-in theaters. That used to be the main way that people went to movie theaters. You hardly can find a drive-in theater anywhere. It's only indoor theaters. Well, unfortunately, are we seeing something that may be phasing that out? And not that I'm thinking it's a good thing. And trust me, I do not want that at all. I love going to the movie theater. I love the communal experience. I love sitting there in a big cushy reclining chair. Not that I have something like that here, but I do like it seeing in that super large screen. I granted I have a 70-inch screen that I can watch it here, but again, I just like that movie theater experience. And I think it would be a very devastating thing for that to go away. But is the, just the signs of the times. The times, demands change of one way or another for companies to be able to make money. And, it's Disney's held out this long. They won a nice relationship with the theaters, but, not to sound mean, but it's are we being nice to the theaters now and we're getting hurt? Or do we, have to look out for ourselves and hope that we can now come back to the theaters at some point?
Well, Matt, I mean, and I totally understand it's a change in the times too, but with that relationship was NATO, the North American Theater Organization, not the other NATO.
The other people that Batman saved.
NATO, the Association of Theater Owners. But I mean, it is a delicate relationship because without moving theaters, they can't, and the money that they brought in through the movie theaters is the lifeblood of the reason why you're able to, why Disney and all these other companies are able to make these $200, $300 movies, for that. And if you take away, unfortunately, and I totally agree, maybe 2-3 years down the road, maybe theaters will sadly be a thing of the past. And I pray that doesn't happen because, again, just like you said, I enjoy going to movie theaters myself. But again, that's another situation where I said earlier, that's a lot of revenue was being lost, and without that kind of revenue, it's really hard to justify to be able to make the bigger blockbuster films that we have now been so accustomed to seeing. Or maybe that has to force these theaters to maybe think better under budget, that way they're not needed $100, $200 films to make. With that, I just want to shoot out 2 more points to you. With that being Mulan, do you feel that it would have made better sense to maybe release it maybe later in the fall, say Thanksgiving, where people are going to be inclined to be at home, and it's going to be more homely festive? I feel like you're going to have more people locked at home, that maybe you could have justified this as a better family event film for a Thanksgiving. Because, again, we just don't know when theaters are going to be open around that time. We assume that theaters may be open in the fall. Could have maybe have used that as a better tool to maybe wait it a little bit longer? Or did you feel like we just can't wait any longer and to continue for the interest to pile up on this particular film?
I'm thinking that might be like a multifaceted thing as well. Like I said, I think this is really like a litmus test. It's, okay, let's find out how this happens, and if it works out well, we have Black Widow, and the rest of Soul. So if this test works and theaters are not open in November, I think Soul is more what they're focusing on for that Thanksgiving point, because they already said that they were pushing it, hoping the theaters would open, and that it will, instead of the June release, it was coming out in November. So let's put Mulan out now, because it's been sitting on the shelves longer, and we'd rather test out on a film like Mulan than test out on a movie like Soul. Because as much as they're thinking they're going to get Mulan, I think Soul's expectations are that much higher. Yeah,
and you actually,
and then you have Black Widow 2 in there as well. That again, let's push it out to December, and are we in the same situation? okay, December comes around, let's put Black Widow in. They still have the Eternals hanging out there because Eternals were supposed to be coming out around now.
Yeah, but
But they're also still pushing that in a few days, New Mutants is coming to theaters.
yeah,
Not around here, but somewhere it is.
yeah. No, and you also brought up another point, which was my second thing. Would have been maybe over a movie like Mulan, because I think Mulan, ideally, maybe in my head, it would probably maybe make more sense to even maybe put Black Widow in this situation as the ultimate special event, because as much as I like Mulan, I don't know if there's any kind of real lineage with Mulan's films. There's nothing really. I think Mulan's going to be I think Mulan will still be a fantastic movie, but I feel like Black Widow would have been that super big major movie attraction that you could convince me that I would be willing to pay a special edition for $30, because of the lineage that Marvel, the MCU, has already created. Like, you already know a lot of plot points that go into it, and
Right.
you're more inclined to put more money for a film that already has more. Like, you've already invested in MCU, so why not throw down an extra $30 for that film over a movie of Mulan that doesn't really have any continuation? Because, like, again, you're gonna go for MCU movies no matter what if you're the hardcore fan, and if you can get it on Disney Plus, maybe that would have been the more enticing inclined to do it. But I could also see not doing it because you believe that Black Widow is going to get its billions. It's going to guarantee get its billions if theaters open.
Yeah.
Like, no one's going to wait.
And not just that, I think there's I hate to say it this way, but there's a little more politics in it. You'd have to get Marvel to sign off on that, where Mulan they fully control. So, they're not risking somebody else. They're not going to, because yes, Marvel is part of the big Disney umbrella, but it is still technically its own company, or it's run as its own company. So you would have to get Feige to go along with this. So
Feige, you got to remember, is under I think used to be under Bob Iger, but whoever's the new who's the
JPEG, yeah, JPEG, Bob, another Bob, JPEG, yeah,
JPEG.
he is under him, but it's
like Shegwoodpeck would still have the final say, even though Feige controls just a division of Disney.
Yes and no. Yes and no. It is they try to let them kind of do their own thing. I mean, yes, they do kind of have an overall saying, but you also don't want to get Feige, a guy that you're now saying, hey, we like what you're doing with Marvel, and now we want you to work on Star Wars, and and you're trying to keep this relationship with them. It's business. You do something to not make him happy. Is he sticking around because you don't think other people are calling him up and saying, come work for us, Paramount's on him, or Sony, or anybody.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you, but again, going back, being the head of Disney, like, hey, we're also losing money right now.
Well,
and, if we feel like a big movie like this could keep us in the green, that is just as much as important. No disrespect to Kevin Feige, than hurting your feelings right now, because we're all suffering together, and we got
absolutely
how to keep our profit margins up. But like I said, I also agree with you on that too. It's a delicate balance between, you don't want to offend one of your brightest people that's helped you make billions right now.
That is just pure speculation. I mean, I have no evidence or backing saying that's the way that's what's happening, and what weighted this decision versus another one, or who I don't know. I honestly don't know. It just, again, pure speculation of why they picked one movie over another, and this time versus another time.
Yeah.
We're not in that room where as the quote Hamilton, we're not in the room where the sausage was made. We weren't in the room when it happened.
Right. Yeah, I agree. But like I said though, like you said, if this does work out, it's good. If this $30 thing does work out, it's going to be a quantum shift in how you yeah, you would have to say that, yeah, theater, it's going to be a constant shift in how films just now get released in general now,
Mhm.
and how much, the native will have kind of control in that, or what new deals would have to be worked even just to keep their theaters afloat and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very interesting time. It's definitely going to be a very interesting litmus test to see how this all plays out.
Oh, indeed, indeed. And speaking of not being in offices where decisions are made and movies, remember the Titans. remember the Titans. I remember the Titans. Um, I speaking of fantastic movies, I'm just going to come out and now say it because obviously there's a reason why I said I reached out to you in the middle, just even the middle. I hadn't even finished watching the movie and said I want to do an episode about this movie because I was just completely blown away by it. I don't know if it's just, with everything going on or just because of just how well this movie was done, the way that it was presented, the acting in it, the script, just everything. I was just thoroughly taken in by this movie and just really enjoyed it. And I've seen movies like it too in the past. So it's not like it's the first time I've seen a movie. I've seen movies like Woodlawn and some of these other ones that have a very similar narrative because this is the story of the movie takes place in multiple towns across the United States around the same time as, people who don't know the story of the movie. It's during integration where they're integrating school systems and allowing people of multiple cultures and backgrounds now to come to the same school where this is, this case was 1971, but in the 60s and 70s where that was not common. And now this is something that is now being told this is is, to borrow a phrase from nowadays, the new normal. Yeah. And just how it all played out and how one person makes a difference and two people make an even bigger impact. And these turn out to be the two coaches of this football team. They're both gym teachers, and that's not something that they talked about in the movie. And it really was a side point that wasn't needed. You have Denzel Washington playing Coach Boone, and his performance is just stellar. And then playing Coach Yost was I had it right here. Will Patton, yeah. Again, just another fantastic performance, and the little Miss Hayden Panettiere playing his one daughter. Now, again, something that's different between reality and stuff. He actually had, I think, 4 or 5 daughters. She was one of the younger ones, and the real coach was not happy that they only had the one in it. The rest of the daughters were actually fine with it, particularly since she passed right before the movie came out, which is quite tragic and sad. But I absolutely loved her character and her portrayal of just backing up that and come on, what are you doing? Just the everyday fan watching sporting events and yelling at their TV and being that armchair sideline coach. Mm-hmm. That was her in this, and it was just a nice moment. But the stories of all the characters, the high school students, the coaches, their families, were just, I thought, really came off nicely. It was just so beautifully done.
Yeah.
But that's my feelings. I mean, you could see it a completely different way and think it's probably the worst movie ever. Go ahead, tell me.
Oh no, I honestly Remember the Titans is just one of those really beautiful films that you kind of just sit down and watch as a kid. It's one of those great sports films too, about a community and how two different racial, both how white and blacks can kind of come together in sports, because what seems to, there's always that saying that sports tends to be the equalizer in everything. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if you're whatever race or creed or religion or sex you come from. When you're in a in when you're in that locker room with different people of different ethnies, with different cultures and race, you later on you tend to put your issues and differences aside to achieve one goal, and it's to win a game, to win a championship. And I think Remember the Titans does such, the director, Bias Yakin, the guy who directed the film, did such an incredible, job of, be able to capture those moments of, how there was tension in the beginning between the players, and mostly between the two coaches. Because remember, in the film, Coach Bill Yost was supposed to originally get that job in originally film. And before Herman Boone, until I guess came and brought in Boone in. And, Yost took very issue. He was pushed to be the defensive coordinator of that. Boone worked the offense. There was a little bit of tension, but as times that they got a chance to sit together and work together and get to know each other on both sides of the field, they realize that they're the same people, and they respect each other immensely as both not only as just a coach, as just pure sports coach figures in that moment.
Right.
It was just it was a great feeling. It was a great moment in the film. And going back into the locker room culture, you see like all these the actors that played all these characters, like Donald Faison and Ethan Slurpee and Ryan Hurts and Gosling and Earl Porter, like the characters that got together and sit down and play these characters. You were just floored. You saw the camaraderie, that friendship that later on built to a brotherhood. As the film went on. And I think what was really great about Ryan Hurt's character, who played Gary Bertier, who was the defensive end of that.
And captain.
Captain. Where he goes over to his other, who ends up building a bond with his once kind of rival, but now best friend best friend. I forgot the name of the actor. Was it Frankie?
Wood Harris, I think. Julius.
Yes, Julius. Yes, Julius.
Wood Harris.
Yes, Wood Harris. Thank you, Wood Harris. You start to see that romance to the point that, even with Hurst's character, I think there's a great scene where one of the defensive ends, his best friend going into this, allowed one of the other players, one of his players, to miss that tackle, which got him hurt, which got Rev's character hurt.
Yep.
Jerry Rev's character hurt.
Because he was quarterback at that time.
Yeah, because he was a quarterback. Yes, he was a quarterback at the time, and he got hurt because he allowed him to miss that tackle for whatever reason. And then it came to a very pivotal moment in that scene where Hurst went up to Coach Boone, or Bertier went up to Coach Boone and said, "Hey, dude, I want him off the team. He totally missed that block. There was no reason to do that and miss that block for whatever reason. And then he put our team in a bad position." That was a big turning point, to be able to have the courage to walk away from one of your best friends for a very long time, only because of different opinions. And I thought that was a really big moment for him as a character to step up, to realize that what you're doing here is wrong for whatever reason. Not only did you damage the team and put them in a bad position, what you did was just straight up just not right. And I thought that was a great moment in the particular film. There were some fantastic moments, yeah.
And Gary does that a couple times in this movie, because it wasn't just one of his best friends who's been on the team for all these years, and they played together, and they're tight as as brothers on the field. And he called him out for what he saw was not an appropriate action.
Yeah.
His girlfriend too.
Yep.
And he's building this bond with this stranger that was brought into the school and that, he was forced to become friends with, and he realizes this guy's actually pretty cool. This is a nice guy. And they start building this relationship. And his girlfriend says, no, we can't do this. What's, kind of wrong with you? And, we're going to go hang out here. He's like, no, I'm going to hang out with my friends. Why don't you come hang, we're going to go, hang out with the team. What's wrong with you, Gary? Why are you doing this? And, this is a girl that he had, they were building up this relationship in the movie that, they were pretty close with each other. And, he stepped away from her because his eyes were open and realized, I don't think the way you do. I'm not. I've seen the errors of everyone's ways, and there is no reason that this shouldn't. Why we can't all just get along, really.
Yeah.
And and just that his character just builds some just fantastic moments throughout this movie. Like I said, he is put in some positions that I don't know how most normal people would be able to go through. To make that kind of, most people would not want to make these kind of decisions, and he had to do that. And it just really just kind of jaw dropping. And just, you really build, a closeness to this character as the movie goes along, particularly towards the end, whenever you see what happens with him, and I won't go into that.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hey. No, but I totally feel you. I totally feel you on that. I totally feel that it's a beautiful. Remember Titans is a really fantastic film, and again, what's also great about going back to these films is you go back to see the star power in a ton of these films, man. It's just the star power in the films are just amazing, and you got to see who became the future stars and who went on to be in other films other than like Denzel Washington and stuff like that. It was just such a great, like I said, Kate Bosworth was in it, who played Ryan Hurst's girlfriend in the film, and then Donald Faison, everybody knows him. He had a great career with Scrubs and had great scenes in movies. Hannah Peltier, who later on went on to be in Heroes. It's just, and Ethan Spully, who was my name is what was it? My name's Earl.
Earl. Yeah.
Back in it. Yeah, just for the really fantastic young actors that came from in this film. You kind of forget that they were in there for a very long period of time. But no, it's a fantastic film, man. It's just a really fantastic film, and it's a classic. You can't not put it as a great classic.
No, I mean this ranks up there with some of the, not even just best sports films. I think just some of the greater films of the I want to say recent years, but like the past maybe 30 plus years to come out. And I mean, I invite you, if you haven't seen it, definitely check this out, because I hadn't, and just was amazed by the portrayal, like you said, of these, a lot of, at that point, very of younger actors that were still trying to work their way into things. Later on, people, oh yeah, they're from this show or this movie, and I'd seen him in this and that. This was be ahead of that time. Like I said, Denzel Washington, Will Patton, people knew those people. They knew them. They weren't complete strangers to the movie industry at all.
Yeah. But
they helped boost it. And I mean, Washington's portrayal of Coach Boone, I mean, I don't know how exact it was, but from interviews and stuff I've heard from some of the players, that it was pretty close on how he treated everybody, and he demanded the respect of his players. And there's one point when they are getting on the bus to go to spring training, the preseason training, and he got everybody out. It was just blacks on one bus, whites on the other bus. And he said, "No, get off. You're sitting back next to somebody else." And he integrates both of the buses. That actually did happen.
Yep.
And that town, that time, it was probably something that most people were just completely dumbfounded by. It's so I think they tried to keep in as much accuracy as they could within their limitations.
Yeah.
It is Hollywood. It is an adaptation movie of true events. So, either some characters are made up or some characters are multiple people put into one character just for streamlining or just to strengthen up the story. You're telling something that happened over 4 months, 5 months, being have to tell it in 2 hours. So,
and it's done very beautifully. I mean,
oh yeah,
it's done very beautifully, and it really just gives you a great insight. We get a great insight into a locker room culture in a healthy sense.
Yes,
in a very healthy sense of how you can learn so much from different avenues, from different people, and not look at them as players, but look at them as people, and get to know them even outside of the locker room as well displayed in Remember the Titans. It's just such a really well done film that does racial equality and justice that way.
Absolutely. And it doesn't even have to be race, just people you don't get along with that,
Right.
taking things and looking at it from a different point of view. Because you even had the one guy that came in from California, Sunshine.
Yeah, played by Purdue.
Yeah.
Ronnie
that
ass.
Nobody liked him. Here's a white guy, and even the white guys didn't like him. And
his sexual orientation.
I don't know.
Which wasn't really hinted. I mean, it was hinted, but it was never really said.
It was never actually put out there as this is the case.
We got the hint.
Oh yeah, you got a couple of it was played around, but it was never put out in black and white, but it wasn't completely avoided either. But they ended up integrating him too into that locker room culture of he is part of the team. We respect him and stand by him because he is one of us. He's our
player in our arms, and we got his back in 100% no matter what happens.
Yeah, and you see this at points whenever it extended outside of the locker room, which I thought was beautiful. That things would happen. They would show things happening in school to these people, how some of the characters were put in certain situations, how these people were put into certain situations, and the rest of the team stood up for them. Mm-hmm. At times. Some people did not get on board as quickly as others.
Mm-hmm.
But they they grew together, and the ones that took longer, the let's say more mature ones, the ones that were able to accept things and move forward quicker, helped the other ones that were having trouble pull them along.
Yeah.
What would you say probably one of your favorite moments was?
Wow. I think one of my... That's a really good question. I think one of my more shocking moments would have been after Gary breathed. There's a particular scene where, Campbell decides to after it's the game before it was the game that they won. After the championship, the game that was going to get them to the playoffs or go to the championships, was the last game before they won the perfect season.
Okay.
And Hurst takes off, and he says, "I'm going to be with my girl, man." And then runs to Bartlett. It's like, I just got to get out of here. I'm just going to drive for a little bit. And he's driving down his neighborhood, and everybody's cheering, and then clearly misses the stop, or I think he had the right of way, and then gets into the horrific car accident that puts that shocks the wave into his team because nothing's is good without tragedy, and I thought it was a great moment between just how Campbell, and I think there was just a great moment when Campbell goes over to Bertier's mother. And he's like, I should have been there. I should have been there with him. I should have rowed there. And then there was, and then the mother's like, hey, do not say that because he wouldn't want you in that same position because if that were the case, and I'm saying this verbatim, it's not she said, but it's like, you would have been there right in the bed with him, and he would not wanted that. He clearly would have wanted that, and I thought. Right. That was just a great moment with, him just pleading to his mother, just crying in his mother's arms. That moment where it, again, takes it beyond just the sport of just two human beings coming together to grieve, whether it be your race or your ethnicity, to come to that moment and to grieve together, to be someone that's important to you. I thought was a very important moment in that film's turning point of just better things, so. Yeah, no, I thought that was one of my best moments. What was yours?
That was a beautiful one, and again, the progression of the relationship that the mother, that her son was able to open her eyes, as it were, and change her point of view of things. Because at first she was like, you're not spending time with this person. I would never accept him in his house. Then you see him in the house, and then you get to that point that they're embracing each other in this tragedy, and she's now speaking to him almost like a son and not, again, just some person. For me, so many good ones, but I think one of the ones I thought really I felt was kind of a pivotal moment was when you had that team meeting. It was early in the morning, and the team shows up at the gym, and they're all going, "Where's the coach?" And you have some of the senior guys going, Gary and whatnot are going, we called this meeting, not the coaches. And because we need to get our act together, because they won a game, but this is when things were starting to kind of fall apart on the field. We need to, whatever our issues are, we need to leave at that door and never go back to them. And Rev starts singing some songs, and everyone now starts getting into it. Or, before Rev would sing some songs, and everyone would look at him like, what are you doing? What are you singing? And you had the guy from New Jersey, the center.
Lou Laskic, yeah, big guy,
yeah, and he's trying to get things going along. I mean, he's kind of like the odd man out to begin with, because he kept on saying, well, what's everyone going, he's from another state coming into this, and he can't understand why everyone is still seeing the way things are, the way that they see things. And he's trying to, he's like, they're the same people as everybody else.
Yeah.
And he starts singing along, because he'd been doing that all the time, but now everyone else starts joining in, and the whole team starts going. And then the next scene, you see that they're warming up in the locker room, and they're going, "Coach, we're not going to warm up like we usually do on the field. We have something new."
Yeah.
Boone's like, "All right, let's see what you got." And they have just come out with this completely different attitude. And it's the whole team now dancing and grooving on the field in unison and working out, and strengthening their bodies, but strengthening their spirits and themselves and their bond. And you see again the families in the stand not understanding what's going on, but all of a sudden they start getting into it.
Yeah.
And how just this unison is becoming infectious amongst this community.
I like that. That's a great moment. That's a really good. I know. Okay, I know you gave me one more moment, and I want to throw in one more great moment too here. I know I'm cheating in this. I think it's a great movie, and I thought this was the movie that you were alluding to, but you did it. It was the moment where Denzel Washington goes on this long jog with these players, and it
Oh,
brings
yes.
to the graveyard and explains just this really passionate reason why y'all need to come together, because then you're going to be buried with these people here. And I don't think he meant literally, but it's
No.
meant in
Metaphorical.
metaphorically. Thank you. That's the word. Metaphorically sense that you guys need to band together, or you guys are basically gonna die here. You gotta leave your issue again for Beta. I'm not telling this again, just paraphrasing. You have to leave your issues out the door, and you have to come together as one. You guys may think you have different. You guys come from different walks of life and think of different issues, and it's not just even your race. But when you go into that battlefield, it doesn't matter who you are. You come together as one, and you fight together as one, or you die together as one. It's simple as that. And I thought it was just a great moment where it forces everybody to come together and then kind of unite. And I think that's when you start to see the process of Bashir's character starting to change a little bit and warming up to Campbell and how they see each other as captains of their respective teams and integrations and stuff like that. It's the moment that starts the change.
Right, because was it shortly after that Julius faces off with Gary and says, I don't know why you don't like me.
Yeah.
And he just kind of spills it out to him. He's like, here, this is what you need to know about me, and just kind of is very abrupt with him. And just very gruff, and just kind of, you know what? And just kind of lays it out to Gary. And I think that's where Gary starts having his change.
Yeah.
And, a lot of things just, these beautiful moments that just kind of, one thing affects another. It's that pebble in the water type of situation. You throw the pebble in and the ripples just keep getting bigger and bigger. I do not envy Coach Boone being put into this situation. And, he'd been in other schools and he left them for one reason or another. There's even historically, there's some question of what it was. He was hired as the school's assistant, but this was before they merged the schools. When they merged them, they kind of, I guess as an example, put him as the head coach. But it was a hollow gesture, from what we learn in the movie. But I don't think, and obviously Will Patton's character of Coach Yost thinks that, this is my team. What are you doing? Why are you taking my team away from me? And you see his evolution of realizing that maybe Coach Boone eventually was the right guy, and everyone ended up where they kind of needed to be, more or less. Just a really powerful movie, and I'm so glad I finally watched it. And it's, you take the football out of it. I mean, you be a football fan or not, just the nature of the story is a classic. It is a, I don't want to say classic. Classic's not the right word, but poignant, and powerful messages that come out of this movie. Football is the method that is being taught. And it's just funny that you see, like I mentioned before, Woodlawn, and there's some other ones where football is the binding agent for these towns at that time in the 60s and 70s, that brings the people together and makes them get over their differences. I always think that's funny, people's opinions on football in one way or another, but it really is kind of this moving forward point for a lot of towns getting behind their sports teams. But man, the messages behind this is just so well done and so powerful. And it's one of those that you pay attention and you let this movie move you, you come out almost a better person. I would say it that way.
Yeah. I totally agree. Totally agree.
10 out of 10, where would you put it?
10 out of 10. I would put this. You have to put it as a 10. I think it's a 10 out of 10 film. I just can't. It's a beautifully well taught film, like I said, to be able to use football culture as an important crutch, not as a crutch, but as an important tool to be able to kind of tell you, like you said, and how you just said it was all the great things how it's used to motivate a community, because football's big in a lot of these southern communities and stuff like that. So to be able to kind of use that as the important tool to be able to tell racial inequality, I think it's good. And I think it's again just the acting is phenomenal too. I mean I understand that the selling point was Denzel Washington in the film, which is a great get. I mean, he's a great guy to lead the film, but it's the kids that eventually, the younger actors that take over that, which is you're just more attracted to than anything else. And you notice that a lot of Denzel Washington doesn't get a ton of time in this film if you really pay attention to it. Like he's in where he needs to be in bigger seasons, in my opinion. Like he's where he needs to be, but it's really the focus of the kids.
I would go as far as saying that his character is more supportive than lead. Yeah. He starts off as the lead to get, because you know the actor, so he's what brings you in, but then he just lets go and the kids take over, and the story really is about them.
Yeah.
And and I would agree. I instantly said this is a 10. I could not. There's nothing in my mind that could say, as a shadow of doubt, well, maybe it should be a 9 even, or an 8. No, I just straight up, I'm sticking with a 10. It checks all the boxes, it hits all the marks. I will argue with anybody any day to say that it's really anything but.
I agree.
So, thank you so much for coming on and discussing this with me, man. It was like I said, I can't even say that just the proof alone that I'm halfway through this movie and I'm reaching out to you. I'm like, I want to talk about this. Have you seen it? And I want to talk about this movie. And you said, yeah, bring me on board. That's how powerful, how well done this movie is, that I'm not even done watching it, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Oh, okay, good. No, it's a fantastic film, man. Thank you for bringing me on to talk about this film, man. No, I think this is one of his best films. I love talking about these older films with you, man. As well as all the other films that we talk about too, man. Especially with the MCU and all the other Disney stuff, man. So I'm always looking forward to it, man. Always looking forward.
Well, we have to work out our next MCU movie, by the way.
Yes, we definitely do.
All right, Isaac. Thank you so much.
No problem, man. Thank you.
What were some of your favorite moments from Remember the Titans? Let us know. Join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Disney Marvels Podcast, and join in the conversation. Or join us on our Facebook group, facebook.com/group/Disney Marvels Podcast. You can even find us on Instagram at Disney Marvels Podcast. It's Disney_Marvels_podcast. Just start up there, so new things coming up every day, or often. Find us on Twitter, also at Disney Marvels. You can email the show with your answers or suggestions, or even voice messages through disneymarvels@gmail.com. You can leave a voice message through the Anchor app and or website. Links to those are in the show notes. And folks, 100th episode is right around the corner. Please send in your comments, your well wishes, whatever you'd like. Keep it positive, keep it clean, but we'll play it on the show. Please, I would love to have you part of our 100th episode, because together, this community wouldn't happen without you. I want to thank you for your time. I know how little time we all have these days, how crazy everything's been, and it just keeps getting crazier, doesn't it? The fact that you spent some time with us means a lot. and we really appreciate it. And thank you so much. I just ask if you can please tell somebody. Tell some of your friends, any of the people that you know like Disney, or if you see someone that likes Disney, tell them, hey, check out this show, Disney Marvels. The more people we get listening, the bigger the show, the better it gets. It just really helps boost the show along. Or also, while you're at it, go into iTunes, rate the show. We're doing great with 5-star ratings so far, 5-star ratings across the board. Really appreciate it. Keep it up. Keep adding more. If you haven't done it yet, it takes 2 minutes. Just go to iTunes, find the show, and rate it. Or you can even leave a comment. That's even optional. You don't even have to. You can just do the 5-star rating and keep it going that way. And it helps more people find out about the show by doing those ratings. While you're at it, also don't forget to become a subscriber. Or you could also even consider becoming a premium subscriber to the show over at anchor.fm/DisneyMarvels/support or on our Patreon page. Links to both of those are in the show note, because remember, this show is brought to you by listeners like you. And also, the bigger the Disney family, the better. Walt Disney always believed in a big Disney family, and so do I. Whatever you're facing out there, whatever the difficulties, how dark and just overbearing things may seem, and just impossible and stressful, this too shall pass. Believe in yourself. You can get through this. Remember, you make your dreams come true. Be strong, be diligent, and never give up on yourself. Whatever you want, make your dreams happen, because they're worth it. They're not impossible. And you can do this. There's a light inside of you that will just, you grab hold of it, you embrace it, and it will carry you through the darkest days and the toughest hours. Never give up. Never give in. Be your own hero. And I'd like to finish today's show with a quote from Walt Disney himself. It's a mistake not to give people a chance to learn, to depend on themselves while they are young. Again, that's from Walt Disney. Thank you again, and I'll see you next time.
I know football. What you did with those boys. You were the right man for the job, Coach.
Your Hall of Fame in my book.